Hey, I'm Drew Russell, your Sarasota waterfront and luxury real estate specialist. And today we're going to talk about a new trend I'm seeing in the Sarasota market, and that is the trend of backup offers. So the first thing we have to do is define what is a backup contract. Well, it's really not that complicated. The name kind of gives it away, but a backup contract is simply a second position contract on a piece of property, where if a first position deal falls apart, automatically that second position contract now becomes first position. Each contract that's used and each addendum that's used may vary from county to county, but our main Florida contract says that, a buyer, if they have a backup offer in place, they can revoke that backup offer in writing at any time before they're given written notice that the seller has now accepted their backup offer as a first position offer because the first position deal fell apart. So this is a very interesting trend, and we're going to break down and talk about what the advantages are of this trend for both buyers and sellers alike. So if I'm a buyer, why would I want to waste my time and put in a backup offer on a piece of property? Well, first of all, as we've demonstrated through several of our last videos, we still don't have a ton of great inventory in the greater Sarasota and Manatee market. We're down probably to a 3-month supply of listings and maybe even less in our prime markets. And you're seeing some properties stagnate, but the really good ones are still going fairly quickly. So if you find that you missed out on a property that you really liked, putting in a backup offer is not a bad idea. What it can really guarantee you is that if the first position deal were to fall apart, number one is you wouldn't have to compete with other buyers when it goes back live on the market again. A lot of times buyers will say, well, we'll just watch it, let us know if it falls apart. Well, if it's really the property for you, granted, the likelihood of a first position contract falling apart is relatively low, but if it were to happen, which it has happened to me in recent months, the buyer, you, goes right into first position and no one else has a chance to lock up that property. Another misconception is that if you make a backup offer, it somehow handcuffs you or you're tied in. No, absolutely not. Under our contract, the one that we use, the addendum states that basically, if you give written notice to the seller terminating your backup offer at any time before they give you written notice saying that you're in first position, you can walk away. So you're free to continue to shop, but you're basically putting a reservation on that property in case something were to happen with it. And one other thing that can be a real benefit as a buyer, if you do end up having a backup offer accepted, is that you could benefit from previous due diligence, perhaps that's done by the other party. I know in a deal I was involved in recently, with everyone's consent, we were able to reuse the inspections, and that saved a lot of time and money. And it was also kind of good because the previous buyer had discovered certain issues that now the seller was aware of. Everything was out in the open. It made for a much more fair transaction, kind of streamlined things. So that previous due diligence can also be a big benefit to you as a second position buyer. So let's turn the tables now. So if I'm a seller, why would I want to go through the exercise of accepting a backup offer? Well, you do have to renegotiate and get everything right. But one thing that you're going to discover is that you have a lot of security. Now you have a first position deal and a second position deal. And what you want to avoid as a seller, especially in our market now as it's beginning to normalize, is you don't want to list your home, have it go under contract, and then come back on the market. So if that happens, you're going to find yourself in a situation where people are more nervous about the property. If you have a backup buyer waiting in the wings, even if your first position contract falls apart, you'll go right to your second buyer with a seamless transition, and the market isn't the wiser. Another thing that's really nice about having a backup offer is this is a person that really wants the property if they're willing to take the time. They missed out on it. And we kind of call this like winning after losing, right? So they've lost and they want to win. They're going to make you a winning offer. So typically backup offers are as good or sometimes even better than first position offers, which is a huge boon to the seller because even if the first deal falls apart, you might say, hey, I don't really care. I'm going to get a few more dollars from this other buyer, and they're much more excited and eager. So it can be a real benefit. And another potential plus for a seller with a backup offer is that you can kind of subtly put pressure on the first position offer, letting them know that you have a backup, you can use that as leverage to make sure that that first position buyer behaves. So there's a lot of upside for a seller, and there's also a lot of upside for a buyer who missed out on a piece of property. It gives both parties a chance to win after losing something. The seller may have lost their first position buyer, but they win because they have a backup buyer. The buyer may have missed out on the property the first time around, but they are now winning because they get it as a second position offer. And you might think, well, this sounds like a whole lot of work, Drew. Why would I take the time to do this? Well, your great real estate agent is going to be more than willing to take the time to do this work because it bulletproofs the deal and it ultimately benefits all parties if it's the right fit. So as we continue to have inventory issues with hot properties, maybe backup offers are a bit of a new trend, and I just wanted to point it out. I hope this information was really helpful to you. And if you want to talk about Sarasota, Manatee County real estate, I'm your guy. Thanks so much for watching.